It's like a Weekend at Bernie's from hell kind of thing. I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
And this is We Watch Spookies.
Today's movie is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 1974 horror film directed by Tobe Hooper. Starring Marilyn Burns, Alan Danziger, Paul A. Partain, William Vale, Terry McMinn, Edwin Neal, Jim Sydow, Gunnar Hansen, and John Duggan. How about a plot synopsis?
All right, so there's been news that some bodies have been dug up from a graveyard, and people whose family were in the graveyard decide to visit the town to make sure that the remains are okay. One of these groups includes 5 people in a van. On their way home, or after visiting the graveyard, they decide that they wanted to go visit their grandfather, who was dead, his old house. On the way there, they run across.
House is huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Huge.
They run across this guy who's hitchhiking. They pick him up, and he's a bit odd.
A bit,
yeah. Does some cutting. They end up dropping him off. Tries to get gas, can't get gas. Gets to the house, decides to go to the river with their van. And of course, one of the guys decides that they want to stop by this house to try to get some gas and all this other kind of business. And then they are slowly picked off one by one because they all decide to just go inside the house. It's not their house. Just walk right into it, and then they get murdered. Except for the guy in the wheelchair who gets gut stabbed with a chainsaw, and then the younger sister, who does kind of get captured, but she manages to escape.
It's not actually that slow, the picking off. Like, once they start getting picked off, there's the first 2 are within like 3 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And then the next one is like maybe 5-10 minutes after that.
No, it's not. It's like it feels like it's a few hours.
Well, no, but in movie time.
Oh yeah, like in movie time, it's just like a few minutes.
Once they start getting killed, they get killed.
Yeah. And like it all starts just because like okay. So first we have to explain proper traveling etiquette. If you are traveling through an area of which you are not familiar, your driver should pay attention to the amount of gas that is in the vehicle. Normally between half or a quarter tank, it should be mandatory to fill up. Now, with today's gadgets, we got GPS tracking and internet searches and stuff, so it's not hard to find a gas station. But, back then, you kind of take what you can get. So, the idea that kind of ran a little bit in this movie was like, oh, we need gas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the point that you're saying you need gas, you should have already filled up at some location, which they did not seem to do, which is not safe traveling.
No. Well, and this is 73, so this is like a little more than 5 years before the actual gas crisis. So it's not like there wasn't any gas yet, or this is 74 rather, so it is 5 years. It's I guess kind of nowhere Texas, but there must be some gas somewhere besides that one guy. Now, do you think he's actually out of gas, or he just tells people that so that they can get killed?
Well,
because they seem to be running a barbecue stand there, and there's like strong implication at the end that the barbecue is people.
See,
so they have to kill a lot of people, and so if someone comes into town, then you don't want them leaving town before you can kill them.
Well, that's the thing that kind of made me wonder is that they wanted gas,
Yeah.
and it's not like it'd be different if they were like, hey, we're trying to get to so and so place. Is that the road that we're supposed to take? Because it's like, oh yeah, that's close by. I can pick these people off, no problem. No one's
Yeah.
gonna know.
Yeah, because he was kind of like, you don't want to go up to that old house. So it
Yeah.
was almost like he didn't want them to get killed, but then that totally goes away later, and he's like cackling at the dinner table, and it's a different thing. It's so his attitude is really strange. So he needs to get a gas truck more often than maybe if
Well-
he actually is out of gas.
I don't know. See, like the setup for this, just it feels a little weird because it feels like it could go in any direction.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like really nail down. Like, oh, if you saw this and paid attention, then you knew this was gonna happen. Like, there's too much in the air for this. Like, maybe he just like, oh yeah, that house is all dilapidated. You don't need to be going down there. You might hurt yourself. You know, he sees the guy in the wheelchair, something like that, because he's relatively close enough to the van that he can see the people inside. That's not even a problem. Him not having gas, I can understand him not having gas for outsiders. You know, maybe if it was somebody, maybe if it's somebody who's in town, you know, Daryl.
There doesn't seem to be a town though, because
Well-
he says we'll have at the end when she's like, we need a phone. He says there isn't a phone. We'll have to drive over to like the next town.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if that's because he's lying and he does have a phone. He just doesn't want her to use it,
Yeah.
or what. I don't remember seeing any telephone poles or anything near to the gas station though.
Well, I'm just thinking of the proximity to the graveyard.
Although he's got electricity, so.
Yeah, like because there's the graveyard, there's the
I'm
the
not sure how
cattle
long they
place.
drove though.
Exactly,
Because they
like-
went to the graveyard and then they picked up the hitchhiker guy, right? Or was it before?
No, it was on their way to get the gas. They pick up the hitchhiker.
After the cemetery.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
Well-
don't know.
Well, it's like, yeah, like the amount of time spent is skewed, the distance is skewed. But what makes me think about it is because they've been going to the graveyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And I'm
they
not really sure where they came from or exactly where they
Yeah.
are. They're in some.
like how long it takes them to get there. It's that kind
Because
of
Texas is big. You can
Yeah.
drive a long way from place to place. I'm really not sure where they were going originally. If they like heard about the grave robbing and wanted to check on Grandpa, but it seems like an awful long way to drive just for that.
Uh-huh.
Or if they were going that way anyway. It's not really that clear. I'm actually really still confused by what the grave robbing thing even was.
Like what was
Because
the point
I think
of it?
the hitchhiker guy was the one that was doing it because the gas station guy says to him like, "You're
I
drawing
told you not to
attention
go
or
around that
something." Yeah. So
graveyard.
why are they like they're killing people? And he's okay with that. He's not
Mhm.
the one doing it, but he's okay with it, and he facilitates it kind of. And then there's like the grandpa guy, like their grandpa, that it seems impossible from the way he looks that he's alive.
Yeah.
I thought he was not alive when
Yeah, I
she's in
didn't
the
think he
attic.
was.
It's like it's him and it's the I guess the grandma, and I thought they were just keeping the bodies in the attic or something.
See, that's what I
because
thought,
They don't
too.
really move when she sees them, and then later it's like he's gonna bring him down, and I thought they're just doing creepy stuff. They just keep the grandparents in the house, and it's like a weekend at Bernie's from hell kind of thing, and they don't. But it's not. Then he's like. He is alive, barely. He can't really do anything. He sits at the table for I don't know what because he doesn't seem to eat, but he is alive even though he looks very not alive.
Well, it's like the level of sanity behind everyone here, because I know these people are crazy.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah.
They're a
But it's like,
crazy,
is it-
crazy family.
Like, are they crazy because they actually are eating people? Are they supposed to be like inbred? Like, I don't know enough about the family themselves
Mhm.
to understand why the crazy exists.
Okay, well, in case you're out there and you're like, but they talk about that in the sequels. Like, yes, I'm aware of that. I've never seen those. I hadn't seen this one until now.
You know, the funny thing
so-
is, this is also my first time watching it, but there is one. Oh, okay, so I decided a while back that I was going to watch one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and I got one from a rental,
Mhm.
but I didn't get this one. I ended up getting some weird one where it takes place like later, and it's like this girl and like her friends, and they do this stuff, and all of them get killed off by Leatherface. But it's like her grandmother was the one that was taking care of him, and now that the grandma's dead, she's supposed to take care of him, and it's really weird. Like, it's not even a horror movie at this point. It's just like, here we're trying to resurrect characters from old slasher films that people only kind of care about anymore.
I wonder if that's the Next Generation one.
Yeah, I don't even remember its name.
Which is 4, but did it have Matthew McConaughey in it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It was a bit ago.
But so I understand that they spend some more time with the family and explain more. Like, I have heard from people though that that's sort of detrimental, because you kind of don't really need or want to understand that it's supposedly scarier if they're just crazy and you don't know why and they're killing everyone. We'll talk about whether that it was actually whether it was effective in being scary even with the absence of that or whatever other reasons. But I know, like, especially like the prequel, which is what one of the newer ones is, I think, where it's like before, where it's like Leatherface, you know, the Wonder Years or something.
The Wonder Years.
It's that you really, really don't care. And the sort of the slasher, because this is kind of credited with inventing the slasher movie, even though I kind of think I understand why the influence is there and that it did occur first, but there are things about it that are fundamentally different, I think. Because for one thing, there's nothing supernatural about this one.
No.
They're just some crazy like Texas hicks, and they're not there's nothing magic. Because like Jason is magic, maybe, we're not sure.
Ish.
He does things that maybe we can't quite explain. He's not Freddy Krueger is magic, because he's like coming back from the dead and haunting people's dreams and things, and
like some next level next level ghost shit.
Yeah, so the generally, you know, Pumpkinhead is like a summoned demon or something. So that there tends to be more of a supernatural element, although I don't guess you have to have it. And then the other thing is there's none of the like stalking and creepiness, and it's like he whips out the chainsaw pretty much right away and just goes to killing and gets through the killing pretty fast. There's a bunch of movie before where not very much happens except people argue with each other. Oh, and then one of the other things that tends to be frustratingly part of most of especially the 80s slasher movies is getting killed by the slasher is sort of a punishment for sex, usually. It's just like, oh, look, the teenagers had sex, they gotta die. Like, there's a real sort of Puritan punishment kind of thing that tends to run through them, which is really odd because they otherwise don't have anything like that. But they're just like, oh, you can't, you know, sleepaway camp, and what's I guess, is it Friday the 13th is Jason, right?
Yeah.
And that's the one that takes place at camp also.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you got people running around in their little shorts and doing it in the cabins and stuff, and then they gotta die because you can't be having that.
Huh, that kind of reminds me of what was that movie? It Follows?
It Follows, yeah. Well, It
And
Follows kind of takes it to the next level of that, because then it's not like you get killed because you had sex by someone else. It's like, no, it's like, this is how it works.
Yeah.
This is how it travels.
See, that's the thing, is like, I remember there being like a Japanese film that was like almost the exact same thing.
I think there is. Yeah,
and
I've never seen
like,
it, but
the following
I've heard
comes
of
out
it.
and people are like, "Oh my god, it's so original!" And I'm just like,
The Following?
"Yeah, it follows.
It follows. Yeah. The
It
Following
follows,
is a TV show with Kevin Bacon, I think.
Like, do y'all not even know how to internet?
Do you? No.
It's fucking 2017.
So we do have to step back a little bit, because this is one of the things that's, I think, is important to the initial popularity of this movie, that I think just watching it now in the absence of diminishes it significantly is it has this sort of Blair Witch kind of it's true thing that people kind of got caught up in, because there's this narration over an opening crawl that says this thing happened and this is it never actually says this is a true story, but it says what follows is an account of what happened to this group of people and the sister and the brother on this day that they never expected anything this bad to happen to them, and it happened in Texas. And so it really strongly implies that it's true without actually saying it's true, which I think Blair Witch kind of stepped over the line of and basically said it is true when it totally wasn't, and had all of this external like ARG marketing kind of stuff which is actually all of that stuff. The building up of the Blair Witch universe is way better than the actual movie itself is. So which is actually they're supposed to be making a TV show based in the Blair Witch universe, and that might be, it has the potential to be maybe interesting in a way that the movie wasn't, because there is meat to mine there to mix a couple.
We're gonna
of metaphors.
mine some meat.
I don't know what was happening with that. That the movie doesn't at all, even though the people that made the movie are the ones that built up the universe. They just left all that to the side. But so there's also this is the early 70s. There hadn't really been even though this is kind of a case like people think that they saw like somebody's arm get chopped off with a chainsaw in Scarface, and they actually didn't. It all happens beside the frame and its sound effects and people's reactions to it. You don't see it at all, but people believe entirely that they saw the arm get sawed off, and you didn't. They just made you think they did, which is their job. But people think that this movie is really, really violent, that it's bloody and gory and terrible, and you can't bear to look at it. And
it's not.
I mean, I will agree that you can't bear to look at it sometimes, but we'll get to that in a minute. But there's really, and some of that is because Tobe Hooper tried to limit the amount of literal gore and blood and stuff on screen in order to try to not get an R rating. Because at this point you had G, PG, R, and X, and that was it. So you had PG or you had R for something like this, and he wanted to get a PG rating, and so he limited the violence and the gore, and the MPAA said, nope, you get an R. So it's
better than an X.
Well, yeah. I mean, X was pretty much like, now we have NC-17, which can be rated that for all sorts of reasons, even though barely anything is.
Showgirls.
Yeah. X tended to be pornographic things more than violent things, although they still showed at normal theaters, which is something that's difficult to imagine now, because they won't even show an NC-17 movie that's rated that for violence at a regular movie theater, even though all theaters have like rules about who can see them and what, like, you can't bring kids at all and what times of day and things. But they mostly just don't exist because it's such a limited audience automatically that they tend to, like, there's only so much money you can make, and so they tend to cut things down. Especially now, where you can you can cut it down enough to make it an R rating and kind of sacrifice it, and then because in 2 months the DVD that's unrated is going to be able to come out, and then you can give people what you actually meant to make and just get around the MPAA entirely.
Yep. Although
so much of the time it's unrated means almost nothing, and it's like, well, but you could have submitted this. It would have been rated R. It's only unrated because you didn't bother to get it rated. It's not like The Wizard of Oz is technically unrated because it was made and released originally before the MPAA existed. So it was re-rated later in certain releases of it to be G, but originally it was unrated. A lot of the Lucille Ball movies, Lucy movies, are unrated because they're just old. And it's not because people are getting murdered in the long trailer or anything. It's just because nobody ever bothered to submit to the MPAA because it doesn't matter. And it's
Lucy's a killer.
Yeah, well, redheads are fiery, allegedly. How do we know what happened? Lucille Ball believed when she was old that she was receiving radio signals in her head through her cavity fillings and stuff.
Yep.
And she's on TV saying it and stuff. It's really weird. But it's not actually that violent. Most of it is just difficult to look at because it's hard to watch, not because it's scary. It's hard to watch because I think it's kind of bad.
All right, so this is the world that we're stepping in, and yes, it is not that good.
It's not that good.
In a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I see
All
the
right.
importance, I see the influence, I see the things that hadn't
absolutely.
happened before, but it kind of is this like dirt cheap, like grindhousey kind of, we're gonna stick this out and people are gonna the back of the DVD case says something
This looks like a snuff film that
It
had a
does.
script.
Okay, it does. It says what does it say? It had some audiences leaving the theater in a state of shock.
That they wasted their money on this shit.
And actually, this is another one of the cases where it wasn't like it made money, but critics were like, it sucks. And then later, critics were like, it's important and it's better than we thought. And sometimes that's true. I'm not sure it is this time. I think it is a lot of like retroactive hindsight where it's like, oh, well, we can see how it's important. There must be something here. We have to hold it up as important. If we say this is really important, also it's terrible, don't watch it. You can't have both things. So we kind of have to say, well, there's something here. You have to see it, and we're gonna say it's scary, but it's really
not scary. I think some of the biggest problems, even with it being such a low budget style film, is whenever you try to make everything black and difficult to see.
It is difficult to see.
It's not like that doesn't add to the horror.
I mean, they made it really cheap. I'm sure they only had a couple of grades of film stock. There's several times where they shoot from inside a building to outside, and it's white. It's color balanced for the inside, and so the outside is blue. And so they're making it really cheap and really fast. They shot 7 days a week, so that they didn't have to rent the equipment as long. So they made it for something between $80,000 and $140,000. Nobody's quite sure, which is about $700,000 or $800,000 now. Still dirt cheap now, even with inflation. And so I understand that there's going to be a limited amount of quality to it. The version that we watched was what's called the what is it called? What did it say? The special edition was the DVD of it, which is several years old now, but it makes a big deal on the back about how it's a new transfer that's supervised by Tobe Hooper from the film. And so it's still DVD. It's not, it's not Blu-ray or anything, but I'm really not sure that there's much more on the film than what we were able to see.
Yeah.
Because it is dark. It is
dark.
like there's a lot of like movement and things are shot close up in order to be shocking and frightening. And it's like, let's have Dutch angles panning across these like bones and things. And so it's supposed to be shocking. It's telling you it's scary. The music is telling you that something creepy is happening. Although the music actually tells you something creepy is happening when nothing creepy is happening
at all,
several times.
Well, even
they're
with
just
the
driving
bones.
down the road and it's like it's creepy, and it's like it's not creepy. They're driving down the road. We don't know anything's happening
It's like
yet.
saying
Don't show your
hippies are
hand.
creepy.
What?
It's like saying hippies are creepy.
Hippies are, well, I mean,
Like you got a couple hippies. They're in a van. We're playing some creepy music. like are these like fake hippies? Nope.
no,
just
they
standard
got an
hippies.
astrology book and stuff. At least some of them are real. Bell bottoms and things.
But like whenever, okay, so we have it's daylight. She falls over in like the most fake fall I've seen in a while, and then it's just like we understand that she doesn't like the meat and the
the
violence.
fall is
We understand that like she's supposed to be that vegetarian vegan kind of persona where like the dead stuff is bad. And then it's like she falls under the bones and here's the bones of all these dead animals. And then there's bones of people and it's all horrifying. And I'm like, okay, but it's daylight. The bones aren't doing anything. They're clean. It's not like there's blood and gore on the bones themselves.
I mean, it is a room full of bones.
It is a room
which
full of
kind
bones.
of creepy, but
it's not creepy to her just having this mass panic and screaming.
yeah, it's a panic.
And then it's just like, no, like it's weird, and it's a little unnerving, but you're pushing it too far, too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so you are killing the mood for me because I'm not afraid now. I'm more annoyed than I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, I
because
spent
she's
most
annoying.
of the movie annoyed, actually, for various different reasons. Some of it is filmmaking reasons, or I'm like, stop with these abrasive sounds. It's not making it scary. It's just making it difficult to stand. Stop doing this. Stop doing that. But then also, it's like, I don't like any of these people. They can die if they want. Like,
well, I thank you for bringing that up because the first, the Fred of our Scooby Doo group here,
the one that drives the van.
No, no, he's the one that was riding in the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, him. Like
so wait.
Because
we can't really have it. We've got too many dudes to have a Scooby gang anyway, which is there's too many people. But
all right. So
who's driving the van? Fred drives the van.
You listen
Shaggy
here.
Doesn't drive the van.
You listen here now.
Is Scooby the wheelchair guy?
No, Scooby is the wheelchair. Shaggy's the guy in the wheelchair.
Okay.
All right, they're two in one.
How's
All
that
right.
for a sandwich?
Yeah. So okay, so we're gonna have the driver. I don't know his name. I don't care. We have the driver.
I don't know.
We have
Franklin,
the sister.
I think is the wheelchair guy, but
We have the sister. We have the hippie chick. We have the hippie chick's boyfriend or whatever, and then we have wheelchair man. So hippie boyfriend and hippie girlfriend are going to like run off down to the river because they want to swim.
You keep saying river. It's just supposed to be a swimming hole.
I don't even care at this
point. Which they find. That's that like hole they sit in that's dry that they stumble down the hill into.
Yeah.
So there's like no water because it's Texas in summer, and of course there's not.
Of course there's no water.
Of course there's not.
But he hears the generator and he's like, oh, generator, gas. And I'm thinking, okay.
It's probably diesel.
I can't say anything about this period of time because I wasn't a young person during this period of time. But I can tell you about living in the country.
Uh-huh.
If you're sneaking around someone's backyard that you don't know, there's a good chance you might get shot.
Texas, it's like a whole other country.
But then he's like, okay, enough sneaking. I want gas from these people. I'll give them a few bucks and I'll let them hold on to my guitar until
we have not seen.
Which we haven't seen.
It's not that big a van.
And one, I don't
we
know.
couldn't afford to rent a guitar.
Yeah.
I don't know. Rent the cameras first.
I don't know why you think someone gives a fuck about your guitar.
Well, because they could sell it for a little bit of money, I guess. It's just collateral.
In the middle of nowhere.
Somebody's going to want a guitar, maybe.
Use it as a bludgeoning tool. But
I mean,
so we get that, and we're like, okay, so this guy he wants some gas because they couldn't get gas ahead of time because they don't know what they're doing, and he's gonna trade a few bucks, and he's gonna trade his guitar for a period of time to get some gas, get this stuff taken care of. Like, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Well, it kind of doesn't though because they pull up to the gas station. And he tells the guy to fill it up. So they don't have no money. So why does he have to leave? Like, do they have not enough money to be like, I'm going to take a couple of gallons of gas?
Well, that I don't understand.
Because
but
how much money do they need?
I can understand him trying to bribe to get gas.
Gas is like 60 cents or something.
Yeah. And so it's like, all right, but he gets to the door and he starts pounding on the door. If no one's going to answer, just leave. If someone is home, they don't care about you. You're bothering them. And if they're not home, well, then they're not home. But he just goes into the house.
Yeah, well, it was unlocked.
Doesn't matter if it's unlocked or not. Doesn't matter. And the thing is the reason why it doesn't...
probably would be unlocked because it's Texas in the 70s, which I wasn't there for, but my family was, and people tell stories of, like, you didn't lock your car, you didn't lock your house, you left your tools in the bed of your truck, and nobody bothered anything.
Yeah.
So...
But the thing is, it's the fact that he goes into someone else's house when he shouldn't have.
But
regardless,
the music is telling him that something creepy is happening.
No,
so
the music is telling us. The music is telling us. And he's just like, oh, I'm going to this house because for some reason I won't accept no for an answer.
No, because they got to have gas.
And then he gets fucking killed, and I'm like, hooray! I don't like this character. And of course, you have the lady that's with him, and she's not paying any attention to what he's doing. Like, she's walking off and just... not being observant enough after the dude goes in the house.
Yeah, well, she gets kind of exasperated. She goes and sits on the porch swing, or not the porch swing. It's not on the porch, but the swing.
And then she goes in there, and then she gets busted too. And he just fucking picks her up and puts her on a meat hook. I think that is outwardly the most violent thing we've seen.
Yeah, it's pretty violent. You don't see it actually go through, but it's implied as much more violent, I think, than any of the... Like, because you can run... Like, a chainsaw, if someone is after you with it, would be a frightening experience, but a chainsaw itself is not inherently violent to see.
No.
You can have a chainsaw. Like, if this was a movie about loggers...
I was just saying, like, if there was, like, a lumberjack,
they start
and he's
the
all
chainsaw,
ripped and he's got this nice beard and he starts a chainsaw.
It's not scary.
Yeah, it's not scary.
So the chainsaw, it's only scary because of the context. And so it's just... I mean, it is a little bit harrowing when he's chasing them through the forest with the chainsaw, but it's kind of damaged by the way it's shot and by how difficult it is to see anything and how shaky everything is. And
I do kind of like, I don't know what type of effects were actually being applied, but it almost feels like they were all wearing like fluorescent clothing.
Yeah,
so, like,
I don't know.
So like the light
yeah,
reflected off of them differently as part of the footage.
Yeah.
But it's like having that running thing, just like it looked really good that way. The only thing I didn't like about it is it took forever. It's like this guy is too big to be running for 8 minutes straight like this while carrying a chainsaw through this thicket, and then she's still going, and you can tell she's
she's
done.
getting tired.
She is done.
That's the best acting in the movie because mostly it's not very good. But yeah, I don't actually know necessarily that it is tired acting. The way they shot this, it probably is. I've been running for like the whole day, so it probably is some actual tiredness. But I always think about that just because, like, I've played so many video games where you have an amount of time you can run and then your stamina runs out. I just think about, like, she's, like, right at the edge where it's going to, like, shift down into the slower run animation and you're not going to be able to run as fast. That part starting at the chasing through the woods begins the part of the movie that Roger Ebert described as endless screaming.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Which is also difficult to deal with.
For once, me and him agree on something.
You would agree with him a lot more if you didn't dislike him for whatever reasons I still don't understand. But the screaming is difficult. It's very difficult to take.
Yes.
It's really abrasive. So much, like, that's what I keep thinking. It's like the movie is not scary, it's just abrasive.
Yeah.
It's like discordant sounds that are kind of music, and people scream, and stuff gets swung at the camera, and the camera swings around stuff, and hey, look how close we are to this thing. And it's much more just abrasive and uncomfortable to watch.
Well, I think a good way to really show this is she has been captured. She's tied up. And for some reason, they pulled the gag out of her mouth, but she's attached to the chair that's at the table, and she's unconscious.
The gag wasn't helping all that much.
And then she wakes up. And then immediately starts screaming. They're not even doing anything to it. Like, they're not even looking at her.
I mean, I understand. It's a scary situation. You got crazy people sitting at a table. That guy over there looks dead already, and that guy's wearing another guy's face. And you just saw the barbecues people the last time you were conscious, and you're tied to a chair. But
now 1 second. I gotta finish this whole setup. And so you start screaming.
Yes.
And screaming.
Because you're a girl character in a horror movie.
And you look, because the camera's doing it for us for a POV shot, across the table where you can see all the other characters, and then they just kind of look at you like you're dumb, like what the fuck is this bitch screaming at?
Stop that screaming!
And then it's just like, what? And you can see it on all their face. Like there's like a point to where they're just tired of hearing the screaming and they're just staring at her.
Yeah,
they're not talking, they're not moving, they're just looking at her. And then the younger one, the guy who they picked up, the hitchhiker. He's the first one to break that. Mm-hmm. And he starts doing the howling, and then, of course, the other brother, the leather-faced dude, he starts in on it. And now they're all making this noise, and they're not even close to her. Not at this point.
Yeah.
And they're just making sounds, making fun of her. And then that's when Gas Shop Barbecue people, that's when he starts calming everybody down. Like, stop, you pack of animals, quit making all that noise. And she keeps going. And going, and doesn't stop, like ever. There's
Yeah.
like, there's no way, like, doing all that screaming is going to make you tired faster.
Yeah.
You know, it's like being mid panic. Like, all you're gonna do is exhaust yourself, and it's annoying,
it is. I mean,
and it hurts.
It does hurt.
Screaming
It
that
does
much
hurt.
hurts yourself.
screaming for not very long starts to hurt pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's really exertive, and it's like you're singing but you're doing it wrong. Like you're going, it's bad. And also, nobody likes the sound of screaming,
No.
even your own. So like she's having to listen to herself endlessly screaming also. And
Yeah.
also like the running, you need air.
Yeah.
Like
And there's
breathe.
no air with her screaming
Don't
while
scream.
she's running.
Don't scream, run.
Like
And
I can
breathe.
understand
And
if she's
also,
crying.
he knows where you are.
Yeah.
Because you're screaming. Shut up. Run. It's dark. He won't find you.
Doesn't help with all that reflective clothing.
He can't
you're
even.
wearing.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Leatherface is committing some kind of safety violation too by wearing a necktie outside of his butcher apron while operating a chainsaw.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
likely.
He can't be like completely like not.
No.
He can tie a necktie, I guess.
No.
Maybe like gas
Yes.
station guy does, but
There we go. Like,
But why?
We got to find out if he can do his own necktie. If he can do his own necktie, then he's earned some respect.
he doesn't seem to be able to talk. He makes kind of like weird sounds, and we don't ever really see his real face. I do know that we find out in some of the other movies that he has some kind of skin disease or something that makes his face look weird, and so he wears the face. And also because it's the real guy who was Ed, I think it's Gein or Gein, I'm not really sure. There was a real guy that actually murdered a few people in Texas. That is the thing that this is supposedly based on. He didn't use a chainsaw. He was mostly just a normal guy. He killed like his brother and like the parents and like maybe one other person or something, I think. But he shot them, most of them, except for the brother, which I think he beat over the head during like a fire in the fields on their farm. And he did wear like the skin of other people sometimes, although not just the face, because he also wanted to he wore enough parts of, I guess, the mom, maybe, because he thought he was a woman some of the time at least, and so he wore like parts of some woman in order to make himself feel like a woman. So there was more than just the face. He didn't have a skin disorder as far as I know. But the only actual thing is there was a guy who killed some people in Texas, and he like wore other people's skin sometimes. Like that's the connection. But like the real guy did wear other people's skin, so that's not entirely made up. But everything else is, there's no chainsaw. It's actually like I'm not sure you would really want to kill people with a chainsaw because it's kind of messy.
It is.
I know he's got an apron, but it's much more like if the grandfather was the best that ever sledgehammered cows to death, which apparently he was according to the rest of the family, that's much more clean.
Oh yeah.
Like it does, like you stick a chainsaw in somebody and it's getting everywhere. And you hit a cow in the forehead with a hammer. There's no, like, nothing really comes out of that. Like, you're gonna get stuff on you later during the rest of the butchering, I guess. But knives don't spray. Chainsaws do.
Yep.
And they also use up gas. So.
Which they seem to not have any.
Which they seem to not. They seem to, yeah. That's what it is. He can't sell them the gas because they need it all for the chainsaw.
It's ridiculous. All right, let me check my notes. All right. So, because you did answer one of my questions on like how much of this actually did happen,
Basically none.
yeah, I say that kind of nullifies like some of the other stuff I was thinking of, like these are real people, but they're not.
They're not.
They're not.
No.
Okay. So we got dude in the wheelchair, right?
Mhm.
Dude in the wheelchair. Dude in the wheelchair is Does he have a problem other than his legs don't work?
I don't think so.
Because he's kind of
Yeah, but so is everybody.
no. I'm just saying, like the thing.
He has his freak out in the house when he's like, "Oh, it would be fun." They said, "You'll have a good time." They said, like that whole freak out is just like, well, I hate you even more than I already did because of your stupid, like, you didn't give me my knife back in the van.
Like we actually watched her give you the knife back in the van.
I mean, even if we didn't, they were in the van. Like, how far could it go?
In the van.
She's the sister, right? So she's not going to like make off with his knife for unknown reasons. So,
well,
it's weird. I really don't understand why any of them are there, because she says to him, or he says to her rather, "You didn't want me to come, did you?" But he seems to be the only one that knows where the house is. It was his grandpa too, but it seems like she's younger or something and never knew them because
too young to know.
She's never been at the house. He says he thinks he stayed at the house one time a long time ago when he was young. Because it's not like the grandpa just died. Like, he's been in the cemetery for some time, and the house has got grass growing in it and stuff. Oh, and also the loudest ever spiders.
Well, okay, so that's one of those things where it's like, I can understand that it's supposed to be a sound effect, but my God!
Loudest ever spiders.
It's like all them granddaddy long legs are just like the clickety clacketest just things ever.
We're click and clack the Spider Brothers. Like, it's really extreme. Like, I'm from Texas. I've seen daddy long legs. I don't like spiders. I've never really heard spiders make sound. Like, ever. They don't make sound, which maybe is worse, I guess, in a way, because then you can't hear them coming. But I mean, if you just walk into a room and you look over and there's like, oh, it's a whole corner full of spiders and they're making all kinds of noise. Like, that I think is worse.
All kinds of racket.
All kinds of racket. What's that racket over there in the corner? Oh, it's spiders.
I miss Richard. Richard was the best spider I ever left outside alive.
No.
Yes.
No. There's no such thing as a good spider. I understand they kill insects and stuff, but they can do that over there while they're not making like a god-awful racket.
Clickety-clack noises.
Clickety-clack.
Oh, yeah.
Clickety-clack, clickety-clack.
But my whole concern is he keeps complaining and like, is that guy trying to follow us? I think he's trying to follow. How is he? I don't think he's gonna follow
dumb.
us.
How can he run 60 miles an hour? Which also, when he's like rubbing blood on the side of the van and they're like, get out,
go.
They take so long to get up to speed. So long.
Yeah.
And actually, so does the pickup truck that she escapes in at the end. That just, like, serious things are happening you need to escape from. Drop the hammer. Like, you do not have any time. Like, push the gas, get us out. Giddy up.
Okay. So, like, the pickup truck at the end, for some reason, I think it, like, died.
Well, no, but I mean, even after it was it did die, which was also dumb, because literally how? Unless it's a standard transmission, they were like, what's going on? And they just let the clutch out and just stalled it, which could have been.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can understand.
But then
that.
once it started, they're moving, and he's grabbing this, like, he's running close to her, and she's endlessly screaming still, and they're just like leisurely getting up to speed. It's like, put it in first gear and get it.
Like, listen here, man, this ain't driving Miss Daisy, go.
Morgan Freeman drove faster than this.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna finish my comment.
Yeah.
There's the blood mark on the van.
Yeah, which he is really invested in.
Why doesn't he try to wash it off?
I don't.
And you can't say you can't say he didn't have anything to wash it off with. You take off your fucking sock and you spit. You spit on the van.
As worried
and you just
he was,
wipe that off, Mister. This is the only thing I can think about until everybody else disappears. Because it's just like panicking over something that you could easily take care of, and just choosing not to take care of it because you'd rather panic.
Well,
so,
I don't know.
So I'm glad he took a chainsaw to the belly.
I don't know if.
Well, one of the problems I'm having is everyone's panicking and freaking out.
I'm not sure if I mean, he's choosing to panic. I don't think that's really a thing that people do. Like, you kind of just panic and you don't.
It's not an opportune time. It's not like there's
No,
a direct
there's
cause.
no.
It's
not
been
really.
too long. Like they've already stopped by the gas dude and drove up to the house and went inside the house
Yeah.
and came back from the house. Like it's not like they were attacked inside the house.
I am super suspicious about his story though, because it does actually change midway. Because at first he says we won't have the transport. We don't have any gas. The transport will be here late today, maybe tomorrow morning, and then they start to leave, and he says, "Why don't you stay? Have some barbecue. Gas will be by. Transport will be by a little later." And so I was like, "Well, is it a little later?
Yeah.
Is it tomorrow morning?
Like
How long is it?"
like I want these details, man.
If it's-
I don't know you.
No,
I will put a bullet
I don't
in you
know
so
you.
fast.
I don't know. I don't. Well, they're hippies. They don't have guns.
Of course they're hippies and they don't have guns.
He doesn't even have his knife.
No.
Because the sister made
But-
off with it, he thinks.
Do you know who doesn't need a gun? Barbecue Man, because he fucking takes that broom and disarms her
Oh,
like
he
it
does.
is nothing.
It's
He-
it's a problem, yeah.
He uses that broom on her like he uses that broom on the floor, and she just curled
Sweeps her
right
right
up. My God, like that's the best scene right there. She like whips that knife out and it's like right there. It's right over there. She grabs it and she's He's like, you better put that knife down. He just picks up the broom and just fucks her in the face with it. just knocks the knife out of her hand. Like, how hard were you
Uh-huh.
holding that knife?
Well,
It's a broom.
because, as we know from Elliot, she's holding it wrong.
Yes.
She's holding it for cooking,
Not
for
killing.
killing. So if she'd been holding it for killing, it might have hurt her wrist real bad when he hit her with the broom, but she'd still have the knife and she could go like take care of business. So
Best scene though. Best
but-
scene.
it's
my
a
favorite.
pretty good scene. Another like one of like your dark complaint though, when it's like the barbecue is people, I can't tell what we're looking at.
No, it's like mass shapes
It's vague,
with
like
red in the background
kinda
and then
shapes.
just dark.
It's just dark.
Like
It's just dark.
and see that was the thing is like I wasn't sure if it was like she's just having a moment because she's vegetarian and like
Oh, it's like,
like-
oh my god, meat.
yeah like there was bones and now this guy killed my brother and he chased me and now there's meat. Like is this the kind of thing we're going where she's just gonna stay in a panic kind of mode and eat like maybe this guy like he's just creepy because he's like from the country or what, like I don't know what this is going to do. And then he kind of backs the truck up and I'm like, oh okay, yeah, like yeah, maybe he's really gonna help her or something. Maybe this is the escape part of the story. And then it's just
Nope.
like bag and rope and I'm like, nope, no it's not.
Nope.
How much longer do we have of this?
Well, that was the thing I was wondering. Once people start getting killed off, because I didn't look at the runtime for it, but I'm like, we're only like 40 minutes in. People are like, all but like 2 people are dead already.
Yeah.
Like, what's gonna happen? Like, there's nothing to happen. How much movie is there? It turns out there's only like 30 more minutes of movie, but it's it's still or I guess 40. It's an hour 22, but they're because we have to have 35 minutes of nonstop screaming, while various others allegedly creepy things happen in between, or not in between, underneath. But it's not a whole ton more does actually happen.
No.
I never like wheelchair guy never gets better because he has his freak out in the house and then they fight over the flashlight and then like he honks the horn and like completely interminable amount of times and then she like storms off and then he chases after her and then she ends up pushing him and I'm like,
Yeah.
come on. you're not helping.
No.
None of you are helping actually, but don't you have like a tire iron at least or something in the hippie van?
They're probably hippies who don't know how to change a tire. Except for maybe the
Aren't they
first dude
supposed to
who
be,
was
like,
killed.
self-sustaining? Isn't that like their whole deal? Like we go like hippie off in a commune and we don't need the government and we take care of things and I don't know, was Saturn supposed to take care of things? Or no, I guess Saturn was the one that was screwing them
Saturn
over,
was
but-
bad because Saturn
'Cause
and
it was in
Capricorns is
retrograde,
like,
yeah.
oh god. I don't know. If we have any hippies out there, do you even know how to change a tire?
Yeah.
Like I know how to change a tire.
I mean, you should. You own a
Yeah.
car,
Yeah,
you should be able to change a tire.
because you never know what's going to happen on the side of the road. Like this, I think this is a good representation of like, I think it's okay to want to trust people, but you shouldn't from the start. It's because like it begins right away when they pick up the hitchhiker. It's like, oh, we're just gonna let this.
Yeah,
kid,
well, that
you know-
well, no. The problem with that is they're like, oh, look, a hitchhiker. Then they get closer to him and they're like, ooh, he's weird.
yeah,
Don't pick him up, and then they pick him up anyway.
Anyways.
So it's like, well, okay, maybe you pick up like a regular looking guy. He's walking around with his guitar over his back, and he's just like a regular guy. He just needs a ride. But this guy's like, he's all twitching. He's like got a thing on his face, and it's like maybe don't pick up that guy, because you're in the middle of nowhere. He's real weird. You don't have any weapons, although he's got a knife. What is he doing? Is he like picking off the end of his fingers, or he's just like playing with his knife? Which actually,
Are you
that was
talking about
something.
wheelchair guy?
Yeah, wheelchair
He's picking
guy.
the stuff out from underneath his
Is he?
fingernails.
He's taking his time.
Crazy guy has got the shaving razor in his.
Yeah,
sock.
he has a straight razor, which he says it's a knife, and everyone else says is a knife, and it's like, it's not a knife, it's a straight razor. Like,
It's still
I
a
know-
blade, but it's not a knife.
blade. It's not a knife. I mean, I know it's the 70s. We've had the safety razor for a while now, but hasn't been that long. It's much more common to see a safety razor than it is. Actually, maybe it's not, because they've kind of come back around, and like now the shaving with a straight razor is like a hipster kind of thing almost, or people that are like, we do it the old way. And now, just so you think I'm not a hater, like I use like I don't use a straight razor because literally why, and also you can't, like, you actually physically can't get the proper angles on your face because your elbows don't bend that way. So
You got to have somebody else.
you
do
have
it
to have
for you.
somebody else do it. I do use a razor, a Gillette Super Speed that was made in 1953. It's a double edge razor, but it's a safety razor. I'm not using the like thing you're not supposed to use yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, people in the old days, they had beards for a lot of time because you couldn't really use a straight razor much by yourself. You had to go to a barber, and if you were out like on the plains or during the war, or beating the Civil War at this point,
Yeah.
or I guess maybe a couple other wars, because the safety razor wasn't invented until 1903, or 04, 03. I think it's 03. I think the safety razor is 1903, and the Wright brothers is 1904. So you could shave before you could fly an airplane by 1 year. But
Beards were always in.
yeah, beards. I think like the Wright brothers had some kind of like goatees or something, didn't they? Probably, or mustaches. Mustaches. I think they had mustaches. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not everybody's disposition to grow a beard. Some
No.
people only grow mustaches.
Police, firemen.
Oh. No, okay. So one of the things now, this is a rule,
West
but this is
gunfighters.
towards the ass end of the rules. If you have to pick up a hitchhiker, it is normally only safe to pick up a hitchhiker if you have like a pickup of some kind, so they are not in the cab with you.
I don't know. I mean,
Because it's
I
like
guess,
it's a thing where it's like, if you want to help someone, it gives you the chance to help someone without endangering yourself, and kind of not endangering them.
I mean, this was the 70s. This is about
Yeah.
like Penn Jillette was hitchhiking around the country during like this exact period of time. So, and he was mostly okay. He did get a knife pulled on him, I think, once, and like almost like got raped by a guy once. But the rest of the time, it was okay. And it was like 2 years of doing it. So mostly hitchhiking was pretty safe, and probably still is. All of in the late 70s, when people were like, everybody's getting killed out there, mostly that wasn't true. It was just like
Yeah.
a few news stories got super picked up and spread around, and we're like, you're gonna die if you hitchhike, or if you pick up a hitchhiker. Because that was the crazy thing, was it went both ways. It's like you couldn't be a hitchhiker and you couldn't pick up hitchhikers, because whichever one you were, the other one was going to
Gonna kill
murder you. And it's like, we can't both murder each other. Like, somebody's got to be safe.
double murder.
And it's like, well, I want to ride. I'm not going to murder anybody. I just want to ride. And it's like, well, I got a car. I don't want to murder anybody. I just want to get from place to place, and maybe I'll take someone else along with me. And it's like, probably not that many people were getting murdered.
Now, there are some places, not any around this location, but where there'd be like prison towns.
Yeah.
Like, it is illegal to take hitchhikers.
And there are
so-
signs.
yeah, so like Be
Those
careful where you're
signs
at.
are amazing. It's like those signs and the sign outside Groom Dry Lake Air Force Base that tells you you're gonna get like shot if you approach the fence, which is Area 51, but I didn't want to call it that. It's like that sign and the signs that say hitchhikers may be escaped convicts when you're just driving down the highway in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas or Texas or Louisiana or wherever, because I've seen them in all three places. It's just like, oh, well, that's a heck of a sign.
What?
Probably not picking up anybody then.
Yeah. This is just so.
Hmm.
You know, I think that's because in general, the concept of the story I like. People go somewhere, run across some guy kills them. Pretty generic. It's pretty simple. Could be used in multiple different ways. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I think that if this movie was maybe overall made better, like maybe they had more time, they had more budget, they could advance their techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that would have been a major improvement.
I do want to be really clear. Like I mentioned earlier that he tried to minimize the gore and blood and stuff in order to minimize the rating, which didn't actually work. It's not like I'm not sitting here being like a young dude today, like, where's my saw? Hostile, like everything splatters everywhere, kind of like. I don't like that especially either. I don't find that especially scary in the same way that I don't find this scary. And it's not because this is especially violent in the same way. It's just like I don't want it to be necessarily that violent. I mean, I do really like Pumpkinhead. I do think that it's pretty scary in some parts. I think it's the best of the 80s slasher movies, even though it's one of the lesser known ones. But things like The Shining, where almost nothing violent actually happens until towards the end, are much more scary. I think Vertigo is kind of scary. I think like various movies that don't have that much physical visible violence or gore, blood or splatter are scary. So it's not like we're like I'm this was early days, like precursor to the slasher movies and eventually the torture porn movies, and so it's just not violent enough anymore. That's not what's going on.
No.
I don't want it to be that. I don't think it would have been better if he had just said like, we're going for X. Like I don't think that would have improved it necessarily, because you still wouldn't be able to see it because it'd be too dark anyway.
Yeah.
But
it's the idea where he obviously had the skill to make the movie, but maybe not the machines required to make it as full as he intended. Like it feels like there's something missing, and it's not so much within the story as it's within the making of it. But then you have the screaming, and then the characters I don't like, and
I mean, the story's a little confusing.
Yeah.
There are things I still don't really understand.
Like there's like certain bits and pieces just sprinkled throughout the whole thing that I'm just like, but this is terrible and that's terrible and this is not good, and like I'm so glad that person's dead. Fuck them.
Yeah,
But
well, that's
it's-
the biggest problem. I think it's just like
I enjoyed watching
cannot-
all of these people die.
I cannot be afraid that they're getting chased after to be killed if I don't want them to survive.
Yes.
And I don't. So it's just like you can die. Like you could just die. Like this is your fault, or you're just like annoying, and so just die so you're not in the movie anymore. So it like you have to kind of care about the characters.
Yeah. And that's something the movie doesn't really give us at all. Yeah.
For all kinds of various reasons, like, oh, you believe in astrology, you're trying to spread it to other people. You can go.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Wheelchair Guy is annoying. He doesn't do anything like outright negative, really.
No.
But we don't have time to worry about whether he will get killed, because he just gets killed.
Yeah.
They're just going through the woods and then chainsaw through the gut, and it happens like suddenly, and then
Quiet.
we run, like we follow her running and screaming away, and so we spend no time on it at all. So it's just like, oh well, he's dead, she's running, and so there's no, like, we're not even given the opportunity to be afraid of what's happening to him, except I guess we know Leatherface is out there, although we don't know that that's his name. No one ever says that. He isn't actually called Leatherface until the later movies. He's not called anything at all. in this, but that's who we know that he is because it's a series now. It's actually kind of weird because it's not really leather. It's like just a person, and I don't know. Like, did he take the time to actually like tan and process it and make it into like people face leather? It doesn't look like. It is a little creepy the way like he's smiling behind the like dead face of the mask, but
yeah, and it's just kind of like a hole, so you can kind of see like.
I think
some
it
of
was
his teeth.
worse the more they showed it.
Yeah,
because that he was mostly in shadow, or he kind of like came out quickly and grabbed someone and went away, and so you didn't really see him. And then there's a long scene where he kind of sits there by the sunset, like watching the sunset out the window, and you can really see his face for a long time. That I think diminishes a lot of the scariness of the face.
Overall, was this movie scary? No, it wasn't scary. Was it maybe scary back in the day? I can understand people being scared of it back then,
Maybe.
I guess.
I'm not sure, though, because I think people may have been tricked into thinking they were afraid just because they were made so uncomfortable by the abrasiveness of it. They were in a state of shock because it was it just was very good.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it is kind of, it's tough to watch.
It is
like
tough
it's
to
almost
watch.
like it almost gives you a headache to watch, and it's just
Yeah.
like you kind of like, it's a good thing it's not longer than it is, because I don't think you could really take anymore.
Now,
But it's not, you couldn't take the terror for a minute longer, like something like the poster might have said.
something towards the lines whenever we did One Missed Call, I kind of want to watch the remake just to see if the people who remade it were like, hey, these weren't good. How can we improve? And then, like, all right, well, now that I have finally got to watch
and
this.
I don't even know that the others, because there's 3 or 4 more that are older, and then a couple of newer ones. I don't know that those aren't better than this, because maybe they had a little more money or something. But
yeah, it's like maybe someone took this story and actually showed it in a way where it flourished. Maybe.
well, because 2 is also directed by Tobe Hooper, but they also had like $4.5 million to make the thing.
Yeah.
So
we'll just have to wait and see.
yeah. Although the tagline on the poster is not super promising, because it was 1986 it came out, as opposed to 74 that the first one came out, and it didn't make like nearly as much money, by like a third. But the tagline on the poster says, "After a decade of silence, the buzz is back."
What?
It's like, no, no. That almost sounds like you made it a comedy, which they didn't, I don't think. But the poster kind of looks
maybe
like
they
it
should
too.
have.
Maybe.
A Leatherface sitcom.
3 is not directed by Tobe Hooper. It's directed by Jeff Burr, and the tagline for it is, "The terror begins the second it starts," with another tagline in the corner that says, "The most controversial horror film ever is finally here."
Who made that decision?
Kind of like tooting your own horn way ahead of time. It's just like, oh no, we're gonna be controversial. You just wait.
You just wait.
It was given an X rating on original release, but then, or not on original release. It's original version, but then but by the time it came out, it was re-rated as R because they cut stuff. But this is, what is this, 1990? They still had X rating in 1990. When did it switch to NC-17? So I guess maybe it was almost X rated, but whatever. I don't even care. So first, how do we feel about Star Wars?
2.
I hate it when we agree. But I mean, actually, I'm not sure if we agree, because I almost want to give it. I can't because it's important, but I also can't not because it's important, because
I don't give a
importance
fuck
doesn't
if
matter,
it's
but
important or
I
not.
know, but it is important.
So what?
Yeah, I know.
I'm
so
like,
what?
here's the deal. You like the movie? That's fine. you can like the movie. I didn't like the movie. There was too many problems with it. You know, and I probably would have given it a 3 if she wasn't screaming for a good like 20 minutes of the film. All right, there you go. You can like it. You could say it's important. That's your opinion.
Well, it is important.
Not just you, but I'm talking everybody else.
Yeah.
But it kind of. I was sitting there on the couch, and it walked up to me, pulled its pants down, and shat on me while screaming. And I was like, you know what? At least it was entertaining enough not to get a 1, but you get a 2.
Yeah. I feel okay. I guess I will give it a 2, but the reason why is because for most of it, I was thinking, how much more of this is there? Like 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh man, I don't know how much more of this there is, but I know there's at least like some movie length amount left. This is not promising.
So much time in that.
What did we get into? I don't mind spending time in the van. Like, I don't mind movies that take place in a single location, but you have to have really compelling
Chainsaw.
You have to have really compelling characters in order to spend that much time with them, and they aren't. And so we spend a lot of time with them, and then they start getting killed, and so then the killing has to be really compelling or frightening or scary or
not
or,
hippie
or
van
something.
Texas.
But it's also only sort of is. If such things were allowed, it would probably I'm kind of like wondering now. I didn't really think that there would have been that many hippies in Texas, but I guess maybe there were. I wasn't there.
Maybe there really weren't.
Maybe there were. I mean, there's a lot of Texas. They sound like they are. I mean, that's a lot of that is because they had no money, and so they couldn't cast like well-known actors, and so they cast people who
well-known
were just
hippies,
kind of nearby, who were kind of actors. It's like, oh, you're kind of an actor. You're here in Texas. Get over here. So they seem like they're from Texas because they are, but then that doesn't mean that they were also hippies. I don't know. I'm sure there were some. If such things were allowed, it would probably be a 1.5. Such things are not. So I guess it has to be a 2. Because 1 is super harsh. I didn't hate it the entire time, but I also didn't really like it at any point. So yeah. So then now, how scary was it?
1.
This is becoming an ordeal.
Quit your complaining.
Hey!
You want conflict? You get Kenny.
Minimize. I know, but he's not here. We've got to.
It was the scariest thing I ever seen.
No. Cade, maybe. No, I don't think Kenny would buy this nonsense.
Probably not.
And he would care even less about the importance than we would. He doesn't even like it when people say protagonist, so never mind historical importance of films. He didn't see Star Wars until we made him in like 2011, so such things do not concern him. He thinks Wild Wild West is good. I'm gonna have to say 1. It's not scary.
Not even a little.
It's not. I don't even see how. I don't think it was then. I think people were just like, "What are we watching?"
Well,
this
like
is difficult.
Like when he shows
scary.
up, I'm like, the first thought isn't like, oh, thank God he killed that guy. He was so annoying. And then we got a good shot of him, and I'm like, hey, that's a nice suit jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Suit jacket.
It was a nice looking suit.
Huh? Had a tie and everything to go with it.
Tie, yeah.
Question is, does he dress himself?
Why would you?
Or does Grandpa dress him?
What? Grandpa doesn't do anything. He can't even hold the hammer.
Dude, it wasn't a hammer, it was an axe.
It was not.
Looked like an axe.
This is not an axe.
Like a little hand hatchet.
No, it wasn't a hatchet. It was a hammer because it was the hammer that you kill the cows with.
That's not a sledgehammer.
Whole metaphor of it. It was a short handle sledgehammer, like for blacksmithing, which is not a sledgehammer. No, but it was a heavy hammer. It was a short handle heavy hammer. There was no axe blade on that. If there was, even if he just dropped it because he couldn't hold it because he's dirt old and looks already dead, it still would have maybe hurt.
Well, you know, that was one of those things that kind of really kind of made me pay attention to that scene. Was they kept putting his hand, and they would lift his hand up, and then it would just fall out of his hand.
Yeah.
So it's not like he even fell and hit her. It just falls straight to the ground.
Yeah. I think it might have hit her once. on the way down,
It
and
is
then
just
it
like, what is
still
it?
hit the floor.
What is this?
So,
What is this?
which that like intensifies the craziness for even the most normal guy of the family, the gas station guy, because he goes along with this because he gotta know Grandpa can't hold a hammer and hit anybody with it. It's like maybe he was the best cow hammerer back in the day, but not now. He's not even eating. He's sitting at the table. He can't even eat. He can't hammer
Sucking
anybody.
on bloody fingers.
Yeah, it's weird. And that's all we have to say about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We'll see you next time.
Later. Texas van hippies.
How Texas can they be? They think a razor's a knife. It's not a knife.